Hey guys, how's it going? A common belief held by people is that seemingly people who appear to be successful or wealthy are bad people. All of the world's richest and most popular individuals all seem to be extremely arrogant, rude, people full of vanity and are entirely self-absorbed. So, why does it seem that way? Why does it seem that a lot of successful people are often very elitist, either openly or discreetly? The truth is that these people have reached the top of the social hierarchy because of those qualities. Think, for example, a person wanting to be wealthy. Statistically speaking, the odds are against him or her, so logically speaking, it would be very unlikely for that person to achieve his or her goals. Now, if this person were to think of how a no modern day individual would think with no sense of self esteem and belief in oneself, then yeah, naturally any sort of obstacle would be enough to waver them. But let us assume this person, male or female, had more confidence in themselves, and they were able to pursue their goals with absolute conviction. They were extremely arrogant and stubborn and refused to give up until they had that goal achieved. This person is far more likely to succeed because that stubborn mindset is what propelled them into achieving that goal. So, by extension, for most things in life, people who have an extremely humble or logical mindset often fail because they think through the paradigms of what's realistic and what's not, whereas those with ambition and confidence in themselves often have such grandeurs of delusion that eventually their beliefs manifest into reality. This is why it's so important for you to start embodying the qualities of being confident or somewhat full of yourself. Start to genuinely believe that your balls are made of titanium and that you can essentially accomplish whatever it is that you want. Now, obviously, you should not take this example to the logical extreme by just being a rude person or being an insufferable dickhead, but rather you should have a very high self-concept of yourself and have belief in what you can do. You can still be extremely kind and respectable in your day-to-day life, while simultaneously in your mind believing that you're an extremely perspicacious and ambitious person, ready to absolutely obliterate the competition ahead of you. Another important point to mention is that our perception of how a lot of successful people are bad comes down to our lens of how we see people. What I mean by this is that a lot of the times, what we may consider as arrogant or somewhat prideful is simply a projection of our own insecurity. It's like that nerdy kid in high school who saw a jock or a chad being good at sports and being popular with girls and started viewing him as a bad boy, when in reality the chad was actually nice and sweet, but because of his confidence and charisma, it brought out this insecurity of the nerdy kid, so he had to give him a label like being a bad boy or an asshole, so he could feel morally superior to the guy who was successful as an excuse to why he's not as good as the chad. It's the same with how normal people view successful people. They label them as bad people so they can at least feel morally superior as a way to cope with their insecurity. Now, of course, there are some legitimately terrible people who are wealthy, and in those cases, it makes sense as to why they garner a lot of hate. However, a lot of people seem to almost put all successful people into one basket without realizing that you can be a good and moral person while also simultaneously being an extremely competitive and a ruthless person. The key is to balance both sides so you can get the best of both worlds. It's absolutely necessary that you start to embody the quality of those who are successful so that you can start to attain the life you have always wanted. And that means you start to improve your self-image and start to become a little bit more assertive and competitive. Again, this doesn't mean you have to be a rude prick, but rather you should have an internal shift where you genuinely start to emulate the qualities of those who are wealthy and successful. Thanks for watching.